I wasn't confident at all. All I was thinking is, I'm not worthy enough. And all I was thinking was, I am not good enough. Hi. My story started when I was born in a small town in China mainland. It's in a city called Shaoyang. We can even call it a town because it is so small that not everybody even have heard of this place. I was born in a family that wasn't wealthy. At the beginning of my time, I was active. I was happy because I didn't understand about life. I didn't know what's going on in adult's life until something hit me badly, that when I grew up more, things happened in my family. The bad memory started when my dad was always drunk and he went out most of the nights. He didn't even come home in time. And my mom, she was always working very hard, but what she did was she also only worked in a factory. And you can imagine the limited income she could earn. And because Dad was so passionate in entertainment, playing, and no responsibility carrying on his shoulder, my mom became one of the only breadwinners in this family. And my mom wasn't smart. She was kind, she was beautiful, but she was really not smart. Whatever she did, she didn't know how to do things. And she was born in a family that her mother, which is my grandma, who was always so capable. She took care of all the children, more than 7 children in her family. And my mom was the oldest in the family. She was born in a place like she was like a princess, but since she got married with my dad, she became a servant. She became so focused on just serving my dad, her kids, people around her. I remember when I was little, I went with my mom that I remember she was always so generous. She said great things about people. She was always full of smiles, and she always shows kindness to people around her. And I learned that from my mom. It's a beautiful memory when I looked back when my mom was still very normal. She was happy. She was trying to just make sure everybody's happy. But the moment when the domestic violence started, everything was changed. I remembered there were so many nights I was crying, I was hiding under the blanket. And I didn't want people to know that I was crying because there was so much pain that's creeping in my body, my soul, my mind. The only thing I could do is just to write down my diary, to write down how I was feeling, because there was even the moment that there's a voice telling me I wasn't worthy, I wasn't enough, and I shouldn't be even born in this family or even in this world. That was so tough to me. And I remember the worst case happened is when my dad was drunk most of the nights, but there was once he came home. Again, he lost his temper and started to smash my mom, and he started to hit her. And I standing in front of my dad, I was shaking and I said, "Stop, Dad. You can't do that to Mom." I was shaking, I was crying, and I was full of fear, but also courage. And my life started to change from that moment, that I understand I had to be brave, and life goes on. If I didn't go on, what could I do? I couldn't be brave enough to end my life. My friend, Is this familiar with you? In life, we all have that moment that there's a voice telling us we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not worthy. But there's only one way for us to go, is to keep moving forward. Back to my story, that was a long time I was struggling. And I end up thinking, what should I do now? I want to get rid of this place. I want to change. If I can't change my family, if I can't change what's happening around me, I want to change. I want to change myself. I want to change my environment. And that was when I decided to study into another city far away from my hometown. I remember the beginning of the journey was very tough. Again, our family wasn't wealthy at all. I couldn't even have enough money some days. When I was studying in the university, I was only 14 when I joined the university. I skipped 3 years of high school and I went to a prep. And then prep before university, after 1 year of prep, I started my uni journey. Little did I realize that that was the amazing breakthrough of my life. Number one, I didn't need to see what's happening in my family anymore. I could just focus on what I could do for my future. I could just forget about the past and move on and focus my eyes onto my future. And I had so much great time in the university because my English was pretty good compared with many other children. Particularly, I was born in a country who didn't speak English as a first language. So I went there, started my journey in a new place. It was still struggling because I was far away from my family, but that was also the good part of it. It made me so much stronger, and it made me so much focus on the journey, how I can make myself happier, how I can make people around me happier. Because what I realized was that the only way to cure my pain is to focus on the positive things. And I started the journey in the university. I remember I was always the captain in different subjects and in the school as well. And what it helped me become a leader is that I started to focus on others more than just myself. I didn't feel I'm a victim anymore, because when I started to approach people around me and realize that it seems like every single person had a broken story, an untold story that they just didn't share with everyone. That journey shaped me to be a stronger version of myself, made me to be a very better human being. And I realized that we are all humans. And I realized that when I start to focus on others' tragedies and the things that how I can make their life better, how I can help them to feel happier, my life is so much more happier. Yes, the things are still happening. I remember during my university time, I got a call from my grandma, my dad's mom. She was crying. She was saying to me, 44, my dear 44, that was my nickname. Please ask your mom to forgive your dad. And I asked her, what's going on, Granny? What happened? And she said, we're so sorry, but your dad hit your mom once again, and this time it's much worse. I was standing there holding the phone, full of tears, anxiety, fear, doubts, so many things that's attacking me, the emotions. And I said to Granny, what do you want me to do? And she said, please let her stay with your dad. And your dad felt sorry already. He will apologize. And I again become the hero of this family. I didn't have a choice. Did I really want to be a superhero? Maybe. But at that moment, I don't have a choice. The only way is because I love my family. I love my mom. I love my dad. I love my grandma. And I didn't have much choice to make. So I decided to ring my mom and say, Mom, "How are you? Are you okay?" She started to cry, burst into tears, shared with me all the crazy things that what just happened. My dad threw things on her head, she even got brain damage, and she was so scared now. If she stays with my dad, what will her life to be like? I was so sad, heartbroken when I heard that from my mom. And I said to my mom, "Mom, do you still love Dad?" She said, "I don't know. I think I do, but I don't feel safe anymore." And I said to my mom, "I don't want to force you to make any decisions, but if you still love him, and if he apologized to you, will you forgive him?" My mom, poor thing, as usual, she's always the kind one. She always cares more about how others are thinking than how she thinks. And she cares more about how others are talking about rather than what she truly wants. I don't know that call I made to my mom was a good choice or a bad one. But what I know is my mom had never get a chance to live a life that is led by herself, by her choice. She didn't understand that she does have a choice. In our life, we always feel that we don't have choices when things are so overwhelming. When we don't even know what to do, we tend to just give up and say, "You know what, I give up, I don't have a choice." But let me tell you, my friend, going back to my story, because of all of this drama, I used to be very good in my study in the first part of the primary school. And because of what happened to my family, my academic result went down dramatically. And it's not just my academic result, even my identity. I couldn't love myself. I couldn't know, am I even loved? What's happening? Why am I even in this world? Remember the days that I was crying under the blanket. I wasn't confident at all. All I was thinking is, I'm not worthy enough. And all I was thinking was, I am not good enough. And because of that, I started to blow up with my body. I became fatter and fatter because most of the time, when I was little, my parents were always outside working in the factory. They didn't even have time to prepare dinner or lunch in time. I couldn't have enough food sometimes, and my stomach had massive digestion issue. And I once went to the hospital. I don't know if I got bleeding, whatever, but I fainted a few times in my childhood. And what happened was, whenever there's food, I realized that food can give me joy. So I start to eat more and more whenever there's a chance. I remember that when I went to one of our auntie and uncle's house, that's a lot of yummy food because my auntie's husband, he was a chef. He knows how to cook the yummiest food in the world. So every time when I went there, I started to eat so much. And then I remember after 3 times, I heard a complaint from my uncle to my mom. "Why, you girl's like a little piggy. She eats way too much food from my place." My gosh, that moment, it's a huge crush on me. Once again, I became less confident, and my identity was completely shattered into pieces. I didn't know who I am. I didn't know who I was. I don't know what happened. I just chose to ignore what's happening around me. But inside of me, I was looking for ways to change. And that's why I chose to go to another city to study. And the university time is the best time for me to transfer to be another person. I was transformed after the time in the university. even though my body was still fat, chubby. But all my focus was I attended all the activities, I went to all the competitions, I win a lot of awards on the stage. I was so creative. My focus was how to make this school a better place, how to make people around me happier and happier. That was so good experience. And then after that, I graduated when I was only 17 from the school. Almost close to 18, I started working when I was only 17 and work in a logistics company, which I have no idea what that is. The first salary, I was so happy when I got the first salary. That was the first time I got financial independent. And I started to give money back to my family because I know they're not wealthy enough. I wanted to keep carrying the responsibility to be the breadwinner. I've been doing that for so many years, more than 10 years, even 15 years and longer. And after that journey, after one company, I found another opportunity and I went to another company. And that company is where I stayed for more than 10 years. And in that company, I started from the ground place, but I was so grateful that my willingness and my dedication, as well as my problem-solving skills and my hunger, touched the CEO and the managing director's heart. I was just a very grounded staff, but I showed so great attitude that they all pay attention to me. So from the moment that they started to turn national business to international business, they started looking around people who would be the best choice. And the first person they could think of was me. I was chosen to be the leader of business development department and to overseas. And that company, I was the only one starting that department. I remember I even named the department. I even write down all the descriptions and even start to prepare the name cards. And here I am. I was traveling with the CEO, vice president, and president everywhere in the world, attending global logistics conferences. I remember the day when I went to the first conference. There were so many people. They're all different nationalities. And at that moment, I was overwhelmed with nervous system, with joy, with excitement, and with amazement. When I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love multinational feeling. I love that I feel like this whole world can be one. Because of my childhood brokenness, the thing that's missing, that there's no harmony in where I was, I'm craving for harmony, unity, and all as one. So what I did, I started to connect with all these people. And what's funny, I was the youngest in the whole place. When I look around, there was no one who's younger than me, which is why there were so many owners, CEOs, directors. They came to me and say, why are you here? You should be at school. You look like just a student, like so young, high school student. Yes, my age. I was supposed to be still at school, but I already graduated from university at the age of 17. I remember when I was in the conference, I was still only 18 to 19-ish. Of course, I looked young. Still chubby, but young. And throughout that journey, I started to build up so many things and learn so much from every single person I've met in life. In the logistics industry, they have so different experiences, culture, and even different ages. I saw people who's only 30 plus, they start to be an owner themselves. And I also see people who are already 60, even 70, they're still running a company, and they came to the conference. And what I realized that I have built up something that's magical. When my mom and dad, they were not home, That was the time I was alone, that I started to make connections by myself when I was dropped in my granny's house when my parents were so busy. I could talk to any age group. And from all these experiences, it built me up to be a person that I love people. I love to deal with different ages, different background, different gender. There's no difference when I start to realize that we are all humans. It's just about the timing. Right now, I might be young, you might be old. But what? I'm gonna be old anyway. And you ever been young? Or right now I'm older than you. You are young. It's the same thing. It's just about different seasons. And the beauty about that is when we come together, the miracle happens. The magic happens when we can all collaborate and cooperate together. And we will all start to understand that this world is supposed to be one. And we need to understand that we are all suffering something that we don't know about each other. And we all know that when we feel lonely, we are not alone. After that experience in the network industry, I built up a very successful department for the company I used to work with. I remember every year, any trip, I was one of the only ones that I always will be nominated to go with the CEO, president, or directors. And I was so privileged that I could live in the 5-6 stars hotels. And even I remember there was business class I took as well when I was only 20 plus years old. And my life was filled with joy and abundance and unbelievable opportunities just keep coming, and I built up so many great relationships in my life. I'm very thankful for the company that I used to work with. But I also realized that it is my willingness, determination, and attitude, and my focus not be on the past, but on the future that built me up to be a better person and to be so faithful and confident. Throughout that journey, I started to realize it's time for me to get married. I was getting older. In my life, there's always people who want to chase me, be a boyfriend of mine. I love people and I can really get along well with many people. But I also understood that I knew who will be my Mr. Right. It has to feel right. And I did have a few trials with some boyfriends who came in my life that they wanted to understand more about me, and I gave them opportunities, but not until I met Luke. And that was a time I was still working so hard at office. I always overtime until 9 p.m., even 10 sometimes even worse. But that was the day he appeared in my life, and he dated me in a Japanese restaurant. We had so much fun talking together, and then he invited me to the Disneyland. That was the time when we hold each other's hand and the relationships was confirmed. He didn't want to let me go. I didn't want to let my hands go either. And we went to Hong Kong Disneyland, and that's when Luke started to travel around Hong Kong and Shenzhen, where I was. Long time is only a year. We got married within 2 years. Only 1 year getting together, and he proposed to me and we got married. And my life started to be more balanced just between work and life. Because I know that was the time I should start building something more than just career and work. And I'm so thankful that I met him. My whole life was transformed. And later on, I moved to Hong Kong. The company I used to work with, their headquarters is in Hong Kong, so they sponsored me to Hong Kong. And my life seems to be so much better, and with great food in Hong Kong, great environment. Then later, I also got pregnant and got my first baby. But from that moment, I realized something was missing. My whole day life is repeatedly just get on to work and come home, and then that's it. And then I didn't even have much time to spend with my family or at all. And I saw everybody's like robots walking on the street in Hong Kong. Like sometimes if you want to smile to them, say hi, nobody is paying attention. I know sometimes we might misunderstood about why are these people so mean. But let me tell you, if you stay there, you understand how much pressure that place has brought. And it's all about competition. And the reason why they don't smile, they're in a rush, is because they are in a rush. Every day is like a war. Every day is so struggling. And I didn't like that at all. Even when I went to the restaurant, like they're gonna say, hey, hurry, you need to finish quickly because we need to have a next client. That was a terrible experience. But that's how you get used to when you live in Hong Kong. I didn't get used to it, even though I lived there for about 5 years. And then with so many things going on in life, I start to realize I need to keep dreaming. Because the reason why I moved from my hometown to where I used to study with, and then moved from there to where I started working, and which is Shenzhen, and then from Shenzhen to Hong Kong, these are all dream journey that's coming true. Now what's my next step? And I realized that I love Melbourne. I visited my sister when she gave birth to the first baby. I saw my little niece, she was so cute. But then immediately, I fell in love to this city, Melbourne, in Australia. And from that moment on, I just couldn't get rid of these thoughts that if I could, I will move to Melbourne. And as you know, my dream once again has come true. It sounds very dramatic, very easy, but it's a very long and painful journey from the moment I got the idea to where I am today. And through that journey, I even thought of becoming a nurse, because what are the things that I could do so that I can come, no matter what, I want to achieve this dream. And thank goodness I didn't need to be a nurse, because when I see blood, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's too much. Like, I don't like needles and all this kind of stuff. Of course, if I have to do it, I will. But if I have a choice, I don't want to. I'm so thankful that I got a friend who recommended me to a company, and there's a director who came all the way from Melbourne, Australia to Hong Kong. And then they messaged me, hey, are you still interested in working in Melbourne, Australia? I said, yes, show me. And then, can you come for an interview? Yes, of course. I went to the interview, met the director. We had so much fun. We talked a long time. He really liked me. He said, hey, Kristy, at the moment, it's not likely we can sponsor anyone because it's a lot of money, time, energy. And also we have to find a position that they couldn't find in local, so we can then get you there. It sounds like impossible. But I said to him, yeah, that's okay. If you need me, I'm here. 3 months later, I got a letter from someone said, hey, are you still available? I said, yes, I am. So I went to the second and third interview. I signed the contract and I started to do all the examinations and tests that I did, hit all the great marks on IELTS and also on all the tests that the company needs to do. I remember I was so excited and nervous. I couldn't lose. I had to make this happen. And thank God that everything just went so smoothly, even though it took a while. And it also took me 3 months to resign from my position. From the moment I submitted the resignation, they asked me to hand over things to different managers so that everything will go smoothly. And I did. That's why we're still great friends. They still appreciate me from all the journey that we've been together. Yes, it's a huge decision. I had to throw back all their achievement, high position, and all the friends in overseas and all the things that I've already got, the respect, the fame, all the things. I need to leave them behind. And the crazy part is what's lying ahead of me is unsure at all. But you know what? I moved the most faithful step. sometimes in life, the most beautiful and breaking through and faithful step is a step that when you can't see, but you are willing to try and move it. That was the best decision ever in my life. And that's when I moved to Melbourne, starting from nothing, zero. And we need to rent a house, we need to buy the furniture, and it was crazy. But we made it. And today, after almost 10 years, we're here in Melbourne, Australia. We already got 2 kids, and the most beautiful thing is I worked with a company for 5 years and another company. I was always the high position. I helped leaders, CEOs to make a difference. And today, as I'm standing here, 3 years ago, I started my own business, become an entrepreneur. And that was the dream that I had, to start my own network. And I did it. And I realized that dream is no longer dream when you are willing to move your first step. Because if your desire is so strong, it will guide you to where you want to be, no matter what. And as I've been going through these 3 years in the network industry, I realized that people is the main goal and it's the main thing. Don't get me wrong, I also had a long journey to battle when I started this business. Number one thing you need to remember, I wasn't coming from a wealthy family. I got so much mindset problem, the poor mindset problem, that it took me a long time to break through. But I'm very thankful through my journey working in the first company I was mentioning, that I was traveling around the world talking to people who already got great mindset. I've been like a sponge absorbing their knowledge, their mindset, and I start to filter in my life and to apply things into practice. And I did a lot of failure as well, of course. When I started my business development journey, I was the only one reaching out to people, just keep cold calling and everything. And there was a time that I was like, oh my gosh, they hand off on me, or they don't even know who I am. They just know I'm hungry for business. But then I found out the way is to build up relationships. And I realized that people don't like the approach that you treat them as commodities, but they like when you treat them as a friend. And that's how I started my networking journey. And it was so amazing that I helped the company achieve thousands of new agents, partners overseas, and their company revenue, everything went to millions to billions of dollars. And nowadays, they're so famous in the market. I'm so glad that I have gone through all these up and low moments, because this is our life. Without up and low moments, we cannot learn things from the valley where we learn on the mountaintop. We cannot learn things from mountaintop that we can learn from valleys. So we need to embrace what's happening in our life. What I have learned, I always share my story, is everything happens for me, not to me. And throughout the 3 years, you might have seen me all the updates about writing books and co-authoring and publishing and running network, being a coach to CEOs. There are so many things I've been doing. But you probably never thought about my story. But I can guarantee you, my story is not the only story in this world. I believe in all of you. I believe in you, my friend. If you're watching this video, I believe in you, that you have stories you haven't shared yet. Which is why recently my biggest desire is to focus on helping more people to share their stories, and that can help them whether become an international best-selling author, or the most important is for them to leave a legacy and to make a difference in this world and leave that treasure, the asset of their stories behind to their children, grandchildren, and the next generations. Of course, my passion as well is to see everybody breaking through the bad mindset the mindset that because of their story, their past, that's pulling them back. Because I know it took me a long time to go through all of this. But when you find that, when you understand how this thing is working, money is just part of the journey, that as a tool for you to achieve some goals. Money is not your final purpose or goals. And you know what's funny? I realized that there are so many people still in the logistics industry, or even in any industries, that when they start a business, and because they came back from a very struggling background or childhood, it takes them so much courage. They have to practice so many times to move any faithful step. Anything that they feel scared, they don't want to move it because they're so scared of losing or failure. And I get you, my friend. If that is you, I can tell you, I've been there before, and you will get through it. And when you look back, you will laugh. How was I worried and scared? And you will always say one thing: I wish I've done this earlier. So my friend, if that's you, I'm here to encourage you. Be yourself, be courageous, be faithful, be fearless, and to chase your dream, and you can do anything.